everyone, it's Elizabeth from Fern Creek Stickers, and in this video I'm going to give the follow-up on my new cutting machines, the F-Mark2, after about a year from getting my first one. So this video is a little bit different. It may not appeal to all of my usual audience, but my first video I made about the new cutting machine has been consistently one of my most popular videos, and I know a lot of other shop owners have adopted this machine since I started sharing about it. So I wanted to give kind of the 1 year follow-up. So if you're interested in behind the scenes stuff, this might appeal to you, but you also might be a random person who found this video because they're interested in getting this machine. So here is my 1 year later story. So here is one of the F-Mark2s. So it is, again, it's a Graphtec CE-7000 with this sheet feeder on it, and I will put in some footage of showing how it runs in a second, with a laptop hooked up to it. And the big question, have I liked this machine? 100% yes, because I have a second one as well. I got the second one 3 or 4 months after getting the first one, and these machines have absolutely been a game changer for my business. So there is no way that I would still be able to have my business opened in my scaled down version without these machines. And there's also no way that I could have grown as much as I did last fall and gotten to the point where I was really successful, more successful than I could handle without these machines. So before I started using the Graphtecs, I had silhouettes, and actually I still have all of them. I need to sell them, but I don't even know how many I have. I need to count up, because for a while during the pandemic, I had a group at home and I had 2 people with sets of silhouettes at their houses cutting stickers for me. And then last summer, I had 2 sets of 6 set up at home, but that wasn't all of them. And at the beginning of last summer, before I had the Graphtec, I would have, Catherine would be downstairs cutting on 1 set of 6, Danielle would be upstairs cutting on 1 set of 6, and we could not cut all the stickers that we needed. So this is, I mean, when just having the one machine was faster than 12 silhouettes cutting a lot of the day, and having the 2 machines, I mean, is so much faster and so much more incredible. So perk number 1, these machines are way faster. Number 2 is they are way more accurate. The one downside, you do have to set up your cut jobs. So you have to initially kind of, you're gonna waste a few sheets at the beginning getting things oriented and adjusted for that cut job. But once you start going, there'll be very few oops sheets in there. Sometimes there will, because a sheet loads wrong, or somehow it got distorted in the printer and the registration marks didn't print correctly. But overall, you are going to cut extremely accurately with this machine, assuming that you get your cut job set up correctly. And the other thing with this is that I've been careful I have my files set up in a certain way, because I make sticker kits that consistently have the same sheets. I have things set up using the same cut line. So for example, right now I'm working on the August kits, and on this machine I've got the full boxes set up. I can stack all 4 kits of full boxes together and run them through the machine. So it's like 4 different SKUs, but all using the same cut file, and I only need to set it up once and just let it go. So in that way, it is incredibly efficient. And again, for me trying to figure out how to have good work-life balance with doing this in addition to my full-time job, it is pretty amazing, because I can spend a few minutes getting a job set up and then walk away. And again, occasionally it won't read the registration marks or it'll jam, but for the most part, you can just set the stack up and walk away, and it's gonna run on its own. So speed, accuracy, and then the reduced labor are all amazing reasons why I love these machines. The big thing that I want to update you though on is that when I first got them, I would have said it was about like 85% of the time they worked amazingly, 15% of the time I wanted to throw them out the window. No longer have the throwing them out of the window. Like now, there's definitely a learning curve, and that is probably the biggest, other than the price. If you're not a tech savvy person, if you don't feel like you're good at noodling with things and figuring things out, these may not be the machines for you, because there are not a lot of resources online for how to figure things out. So most of the troubleshooting I've had to figure out on my own. And it did take a while to learn these things, but now we've got it down. So Danielle and I both, we almost never have a problem. And we did have a problem the other day, and it was one was like, oh, it's been so long since I've had to deal with this. How do I do it? And I've actually at this point made a manual for when I had a bunch of employees. I've got like an operating manual, and I've written down all of the troubleshooting, which is good, because I actually had to go refer to it. But that was really unusual that we had an issue that we were like, oh, how do we solve this? Because at this point, they pretty much run amazingly 100% of the time. So again, there was a big learning curve. It took a few months to figure out the process. and took longer to kind of figure out how to work with all the issues. But at this point, they're working amazingly. And again, only a few months after I bought the first one, I bought a second one. So these machines have just been amazing for me in my business. Obviously, it's a big investment, but it definitely paid off, especially last fall when my business was like way bigger than I ever could have imagined that it would have got. These machines really paid off. So definitely, in my case, worth it. And I would highly recommend these if you can afford them. I think that these machines really make a big difference for a business, especially for a sticker shop where it really is a high labor, high volume kind of thing. These machines are perfect. So I do want to, I'm not gonna go through like all of my tips and tricks, but I do wanna just talk about a couple little troubleshooting things, parts and advantages. So I will turn you back around to talk about that. So one small thing to keep in mind is that you do, unlike a Silhouette where you can run a bunch from one computer, you do need a dedicated computer for each one. The good thing is though, the F-Mark software, because it only has the cut lines in it, the files aren't very intensive, and these are super cheap laptops. These are like $300 laptops that I am running these off of. So even though each one needs a dedicated computer, it does not take much computing power, but you do need a PC. So these computers are just dedicated to running the F-Marks. One thing I want to talk about are the different parts that need to be replaced, and to tell you what my experience has been over the past year. So the first thing is we've got our cutting strip here. And so if you watched my video that I made last summer, I was cutting things in 2 passes. So first I would do the kiss cuts inside, and then I would do the outside cuts. And the reason I did that, there are 2 blade positions, and so you can move the blade to the front position to do the die cut, and then it doesn't cut on the cutting strip, it just cuts in this channel. So I was doing that initially because I didn't want to chew up my cutting strips too fast, but I realized the cutting strips still got chewed up just with doing the matless cutting on here for the kiss cut. It was still getting chewed up, and way more efficient to do all of it in one pass. So I cut them in one pass now. I'll show you that in a minute when I actually run the machine. And the cutting strips, I should have looked up how much they cost. They aren't cheap, but they last for a while. And the other thing I found out to make them last longer is you can actually peel them off and then rotate them 180 degrees, because the part that gets like chewed up, which is here, if you turn it 180 degrees, it's going to be over on that side, and the blade is going to be cutting in a different spot. So you can actually get double the life out of the cutting strips. And when we were cutting a ton of stickers last fall, we would change them about once a month, so it's less than that now. So again, it's a part that needs to be replaced, but what I was doing initially with running things through 2 passes was not worth it. The amount of extra time it took was not worth it for the cost savings of the cutting strips. Another thing that needs to get replaced are these plastic feeder things. There's a name for them, I don't remember what. And you can see this one has some packing tape on it because these do rip and bend. And it's just inevitable because sometimes like a sheet will jam up, sometimes you're leaning over the machine and you accidentally bend it. You can kind of like with this one, it bent and I was able to tape it back into place and it's working just fine. They do need to, they'll get so beat up eventually that they aren't feeding the sheets properly and the sheets will feed in kind of crooked, and then you do need to replace them. And these cost like 50 bucks each, so they're kind of ridiculously expensive. I have had to replace them a few times, but in the grand scheme of things, compared to what I was paying for Silhouette mats and blades, way better. Then the other part that needs to be replaced that's kind of obvious are the blades and the blade holders. So you can buy blades directly from Graphtec and they're ridiculously expensive. I buy blades on AliExpress a lot at a time, and they are less than $1 a piece. Again, in the fall when we were at full capacity, cutting like 10 hours a day, we replaced the blades every day because, you know, with how much we were cutting and how cheap they were, $1 per day per machine was not bad. The thing that's sort of unexpected, and sorry this is out of focus, is you do need to replace the blade holder regularly. And I'd say when we were doing a lot of capacity, it was probably every month, month and a half or so that we were replacing them. And they do cost about $100 each, but they do need to get replaced. They do wear out. And I have experimented with using off-brand ones, but really the Graphtec brand ones I think work the best, and it's worth it. Again, compared to what I was paying for Silhouette blades and mats before, I am paying way less for parts. The one other thing are the suction cups do need to get replaced. And when I got them, they told me that it would be about a year before they needed to get replaced. And I had to replace them on this machine, which is my first one, right at 11 months. So they really lasted for a long time. So overall, again, there are a few things that need to get replaced regularly, but way less expensive than what I was dealing with for silhouettes. So let me just cue this up and run a few sheets through so you can see what the process looks like. Pull a sheet, as like stack of cut sheets out of the machine, you can kind of take the outside off of the whole stack together. So now I've got this set of full boxes, but you notice that they are two sheets put together, and that is because the one downside compared to the silhouette with doing matless cutting, you can't cut the sheets out individually because the sheet loses so much integrity doing that. You can't make those additional cuts. So we just do one big cut around the outside, and then I've got to make an additional cut down the middle to separate this out into different sheets. Initially, I shouldn't say initially, for a long time, we were just using paper cutters, high-end paper cutters, but just regular paper cutters that you could put 3 sheets in at once and just cutting things up to match, and we were putting crop marks on everything so we knew where to cut. We now have a much better paper cutter that I'll show you in a moment, and also with the recent kit reformat, I have everything in more standardized sizes now, so that's part of the reason why the add-ons are all the same sizes now, because it makes it much easier with this paper cutter to cut things up and not have to put crop marks on the sheets anymore. So this is the new paper cutter. So it is a guillotine style cutter, and you can put a stack in. You can put a way bigger stack in than this, but we tend to do smaller ones at once because you can get, they can shift a little bit more depending on how big the stack is, and especially once you get the back arm in the right place, it's not very hard to put multiple stacks through. So, you know, I don't know, maybe this is 10 sheets or so. So I'm gonna put it in and make sure I've got it lined up well against the back guide. I crank this down, and that puts a clamp down on these. And sorry if this shakes a little bit, it's on a folding table. Put the safety guard down. There's a safety lever I have to pull with one hand, and then I pull the arm down with the other one. And now I've got my set of 2 sheets of full boxes. So this has made things much, much easier to cut things up, so it doesn't take us nearly as long. That was a big part of the labor before, was just cutting up all the sheets. Still way less labor than with the silhouettes, but I cannot believe I waited this long. Actually, let me show you the machine from the front. I can't believe that I waited this long to get this machine. Partly it was space restrictions at our condo, but totally worth it. You can get guillotine cutters like this at all different price points. This one was about $500, which is definitely makes it a lower end one, but I've been totally happy with the precision. The only thing is, if you do anything with stickers, you know, adhesive gets on everything, so we do have to clean the blade using Q-tips and Goo Gone pretty regularly to keep the adhesive off, but it really works well for cutting up the sheet. Then the last thing that I want to show you is this, which is just a Graphtec CE-7000 without the sheet feeder added to it. And if you look at prices online, you'll see the sheet feeder is really where most of the cost is. And I think that this machine also is really underrated and doesn't get enough attention. So we just use this for customs. And I will run a sheet through in a moment to show you how it works. But again, we were still, even after we'd switched entirely to using the F-Mark2 for everything but customs, we are still doing customs on silhouettes. It doesn't, for a lot of reasons, it doesn't make sense to do customs on those machines. And the silhouettes are just so slow that customs could take 20 to 30 minutes to cut, and the accuracy was just not good enough. And we were having to redo a lot of customs because they weren't cut accurately. And this machine is amazing. So incredibly fast, incredibly accurate. Like, I think we've had one oops custom since we've gotten this, and that was a user error issue. So it has been incredibly accurate, it's incredibly fast, and I think this is underrated for if you were starting a sticker shop and had a little more money to invest. I would say buy one of these instead of buying a bunch of silhouettes. And you know, again, downside is you can't be doing as many things at once. You're only running one machine at once, but the speed and accuracy definitely make up for that. And I've also seen too, you'll see when I use this, we do cut on mats. We could definitely do it matless, but we found that for the customs, it's just easier to do it on mats, and especially because we get a better outside edge, not having to do a perf cut. But one thing you can do, this is set up to take rolls, and I have seen Pearl from Paramount. She has one of these that she uses, and she will tape sheets together to kind of cheat a roll, because one thing that's cool on here, there is a barcode reader, so you can print a barcode on your sheet and then it will read the barcode and pick the right cut file when it puts the sheet in, so you can kind of make a fake roll to have it feed through a bunch of different sheets at once. So there are cool things you can do, and I think that this is way underrated as a machine. One thing to say about software for this, there is specific software for this machine, and I thought like, oh, it'll be like Silhouette Studio, it'll be fine. No, it is garbage software. So I use the Cutting Master plugin for Adobe Illustrator. Way better, works amazingly well. I haven't had issues with that. So you just set up your files in Illustrator, put the cut lines in a separate layer, and then send it to Cutting Master. So let me get a custom printed out and I will show you how fast it cuts the custom. Okay, I have this custom order from Marissa all ready to go. So I'm gonna hit start and you'll be able to see the speed of reading the registration marks and cutting compared to a silhouette. So that took under 3.5 minutes, and I need to take it off the mat, but hopefully you can see the cut lines there and see that they are extremely accurate and where they need to be. So again, very happy with this, and a job like this would have taken, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes on a silhouette, way longer, and not been as accurate. So again, this machine has definitely been worth it. So to recap, a year later, I am really happy with my investment in my first F-Mark2, and I've gone on to get another one and to get another kind of Graphtec, and these machines have made such a big difference for me. And again, I would not be able to run my shop now with the labor restrictions that I have if I did not have these machines. So if you are a shop owner and you have questions, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to answer questions about these. I know that the time and labor issue is really a big challenge for running a sticker shop, and so I'm really happy to share about these machines as a good way to improve that. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye everyone.